here. We'll just start. There we go. All right, guys, welcome. A little different today. Ed is not going to be able to make it, and Junaid is on vacation. I believe he comes back next week. And I'm Dr. Harvey Castro. Excited that I have Dr. Isha and I have a special guest today. So before I'm not going to go through all the bio. I'd rather Stephanie, you kind of go through your. There's Ed. Hey Ed, how are you?
Yeah,
Bud? So Ed, Stephanie, do you mind introducing yourself, your company, what you're doing, and let's just jump right in.
you're talking to me or Ed? I think you're talking to me.
I'm sorry, you. Sorry.
Got it. My name is Stephen Rouse. I'm the
Sorry.
I'm the co-founder and head of growth here at Sava AI. We're a consumer health platform aimed at improving people's lives and letting them make more informed decisions of their health. I think about that sums it up just right, I think.
Well, my favorite phrase is, "What is your why? Why do you end up doing this? Like, what's the story behind this? Because I know there's got to be a story."
Yeah, my co-founder and I was the head of sales and the first hire at a startup called Protocol First, and Amit, my co-founder here at Sava, was the CTO and the co-founder of Protocol First, and we launched the first Fire app. If you guys want to start with some acronyms at 6:00 in the morning. We were the first Fire app ever listed on the Epic App Orchard. And from our point of view, the first app to ever use Fire to extract patient health information outside of hospital firewalls. And that happened at Ohio State in 2018. And so that company was swallowed up by Flatiron Health via Roche years later. And so we have a kind of this history and this specialized way of dealing with health data. And so we knew whatever we were going to be doing next was going to be something in the health data space. And then really it's the perfect storm between after the acquisition, the 21st Century ONC Cures Act was passed, or at least the 2022 guidance. And we looked at it and said, wow, consumers can take over their health information, right? What an awesome thing when it comes to access. And so we started kind of building the pipes again between all these EHR systems and started coming up with ways, okay, what if you don't have an EHR? How can we ingest data? And so that, 24 months ago or in that neighborhood, we set off on this journey. And now we're at a team of, I think we have 6 full-time employees and five interns currently. And it's been a wild ride with some of the consumer health tech that's come out just in the last 6 months. But I think the why is because we have the ability to work with Fire in ways that I don't think any other people on planet Earth, it seems like, know how to work with Fire and getting access to this data. And plus, I think that this consumer health wave is like such a pivotal point in medicine, and this value-based care wave and preventative care. And I think it all starts, from my perspective, with putting power in the hands of the consumer and enabling people to make informed decisions and go from there.
Love it. Ed or Dr. Isha, what do you guys think?
Yeah, my puppy says hello.
Good morning.
My wife had early clinic, and I'm actually home. I'm about to leave for the airport, so that's why I was
Nice.
behind the scenes a little bit late. But yeah, Steve, I'd like to hear more on your thoughts about, because we've talked about this quite a bit on the show, about this wave of consumerism. And you're obviously, your company is a key part to making that happen because of the interoperability things that you all do with Fire and whatever other mechanisms. So where do you think we're headed?
Well, I think it's, I'm going to start, Wednesday morning with a scary story.
Yeah.
I think if we're not careful, we're headed in an awful direction, right? I think that I talk all the phone in here every day, all day long with people. And to be quite frank, me talking about healthcare data interoperability and 21 CFR Part 11 and HIPAA compliancy and all that stuff, I'm the last person on the planet. But no one's really heard of the 21st Century ONC Cures Act, especially consumers. And I mean, even doctors from top academic medical centers, I get on and they're like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" Right? Let alone have they read the fine print. And I think that it's kind of scary that, okay, hey, you can access your health data via third-party application, right? Okay, awesome. Healthcare democratization, equity, that's sweet. If you go through a third party, that third party, you could do anything they want with your data. And they could sell it. They could store it. They can train things on it. They can do whatever they want. They don't need to be HIPAA compliant. They can do whatever they fancy. And in 2026, data is king. And I think that the biggest problem is that companies or people, however you want to think about it, they treat health data just like they treat consumer data. And, we're talking about data points and conversations that people have around the dinner table with their loved ones about stuff that's going to kill them one day. And it's not necessarily from a data breach perspective, but it's about just a day that, hey man, this is mine. This is private. I had a buddy, I get colon cancer last year, and he for months and months told everyone he had a hernia, even his wife, right? People are private with their health data. And I think the biggest threat to this consumer health wave is regulators stepping in and be like, wait a minute, this is, you can't be doing this and having to start over from scratch with everything. And so I can get into how, we've approached that. But 23andMe taught us all what happens when consumer health data is being stored and how policies change, whether it's through an acquisition or just through bankruptcy court. And with 23andMe's example, right? All of a sudden your health data is being brokered off in bankruptcy court and you have no say. And so I think I'll start with it being super scary, but on the flip side, I'm a big traveler, spent most of my life outside the US, it seems like, and been hospitalized in Laos and Tanzania and all over the place. And, this kind of thing kind of opens up, oh, wow, you could digitize someone's health record in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and have these people have access to leading AI models to better understand their health. It's kind of a give and take, right? I think that we just need to be really smart when it comes to protecting people's data.
Yeah,
with this stuff.
Well, we're not afraid of hot topics or hard topics, and that's what makes for a more interesting podcast, anyways. I know. I want everyone to see my data, have my data. If I'm in a car accident, and I'm in some city that doesn't have my EHR, which is beholden to a specific. I have 4 or 5 different portals, right? And they don't necessarily talk to each other unless someone's being super proactive. And even then, sometimes they don't want to share certain images with another hospital, and I have to redo my MRI. That's another story some other time. But I'm fine with it. But I understand the different issues. It's a hard thing to govern, and that's and as you said, probably only 1% of healthcare professionals know all the details of all these laws that are passed. It's people like us who have high interest for obvious reasons, that know, but the average, definitely the average patient does not know. And maybe the average hospital person doesn't really know. They see the headlines and that's about it. That's why I'm glad we're having this conversation, because I think it's important what you all do and with the data interoperability, because again, that I think kind of where we're headed is that patients will start owning their own data. Been talking about that for a long time, but didn't really have the mechanisms to do it. And now there's companies out there that are offering that, and then we'll be much more mobile and transportable and things like that. And it's some things that your company's helping, these other companies with that whole data interoperability. Anyways, I think it's a super exciting time.
Thank you for that, Stephen. And I consider myself the one who kind of bridges the gap between the tech and the human, and I think we all do. But one of my missions is to just create or help recreate and build trust in medicine and transparency in medicine and some of the new technologies. But since we're talking about data and we love hot questions, what about your consumers that maybe don't have a PCP? And so, we have all this health data, and say there is an issue that indicates maybe an urgent medical concern. And this is a question for anybody, what obligation, if any, does anybody have for that information? I mean, if the patient owns the information, they may not know how to act on it. Is it then on them to figure it out and contact their healthcare provider, or is there some other way to use that information?
Dr. Castro?
No, I'm with this whole information. I call it the healthcare IQ. Think of it this way. It's a bad example, but 40 years ago, if I had a cigar and I was just smoking and we were doing this podcast, you'd be like, no big deal, right? Because cigarettes at the time was just understood. Now, if I do that, they're like, Harvey, why are you doing that? So the difference is we know more on our healthcare. And as a society, as we're improving that level, we'll be able to do more. And so to your point of, can we have this digitized and healthcare, what you're doing is exactly that. And so in the near future, we'll be able to do more and be more advocates for our own health. And then it'll get to the point where maybe the AI is telling us, hey, that may not be standard of care. You may need X, Y, Z. And so then now the pendulum changes, where now doctors and the society gets elevated. So I just see that that's literally where we're going. I work for a space company, and one of our goals is to leverage the satellites in space and think of all the applications, something like what you're working on the satellite, on a cloud that's working on the planet. So I just feel like that's literally where the puck is headed.
Oh, something just popped up here. What happened here? Claude trying to get in on this conversation as we're talking about AI. It's kind of scary. Claude window just popped up in my window. I think, the AIs, right? I think that some companies are doing something we're not doing, and I think it's very cool what they do. I think, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Doctronic, but I think it's $39 to get connected after you ask all these questions to this AI chatbot and ingest your medical information. You can, get a conversation going in person on Zoom with a licensed physician in the US for way cheaper than most people's copays are. And I think that's incredible what some companies are doing. I also had a point when you were asking your question, Dr. Mannering, that it's kind of funny. Unless you're listed as software as a medical device and you're in the AI, consumer health AI space, and no one is, I don't think Whoop or Garmin or Aura or ChatGPT Health, any of that stuff is. Medical conclusions are a no-no. And right, so you could explain what the data is and kind of like you're leaving the ball in your court to figure this out. And I think as that evolves, and we start trusting these AI models for the right reason, right? And they get to the point, like Dr. Castro said, when these AIs get to the point and they're evolved to the point where you're like, okay, I trust what this is going to say, and I'm okay. The FDA is okay with medical conclusions coming from a robot. Also on the satellite piece, I think that I went on this whole security and privacy spiel earlier already, and so that's all I talk about in here some days. Right, I think that it's so funny you mentioned satellites. Our architecture for Sava is everything is on device. There's no cloud storage of any shape or form. Whether you got wearables information coming from my Whoop or data coming from an EHR, or we have an on-device OCR that you can take pictures of a lab report coming out of the DRC, and you can translate it into 50 languages. None of that data ever reaches the cloud. And a lot of that can happen on airplane mode without service. And so I think that these tensor processing units and these vapor cooling chambers and the on-device capabilities of what these phones, every phone, whether it's Samsung, the Google phones, the iPhones, all these phones for the last several years have been gearing up for on-device AI and on-device storage. And so we've done that for a few reasons. We had Press and Ghana yesterday come out, and I was like, woohoo! I mean, we're trying to support patient populations around the world with a mission to digitize 1 billion people's health records in the next 3 years, right? In that same time frame, people that have electronic health records, maybe in Western Europe and the U.S. and Japan, maybe I can support 100 million patients in that same time frame, right? And so we built it because we saw what happens when you stored health data, and all of a sudden we get acquired, or all of a sudden we're in bankruptcy court, and now we're changed our entire business model and we're selling people's data. We didn't want to be in the position to ever do that. And I think from my perspective, when I look around, I don't see anybody messing around with these on-device AIs and no storage. We don't have any accounts. There's no email. Isn't that weird? When's the last time you had an app where you don't have an email? Right? It's your phone is your identity in there. And I'm the believer that, especially with Apple coming out now with whatever they called it a couple weeks ago, Core AI. You guys see that? Wild. I've been saying for a while now, one of these days, there's going to be an AI on your phone that you are so comfortable with. Whatever you're doing, you're fighting with your wife, you're arguing with your wife, bad to say fighting, you're arguing with your wife, you're looking at your financials, you're doing anything personal on the internet, and you have this thing accompanying you as you go because it's on your phone and you can control it. You can test it. You can get on airplane mode and still talk with it. And so we're kind of trying to skate where the puck's going to be, so to speak, with some of that. And I know we're probably getting off topic. It's 6:15 in the morning. I had such a funny story I was planning on telling you guys, but like, I'm the least handy person on the planet. And my garage, I have to now. Garage door last night, I was like freaking out because we couldn't close it. And I've gone electrical tape, getting screwdrivers. And I looked at the clock. I was like, oh my God, it's midnight. And I have a podcast at 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. So sorry for the long rambling. I'm just absolutely sleep deprived at the moment. Dr. Castro, you're muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, he'll come back. His AI agent probably took over, from
yeah. And enough of that conversation, boom. See you, human.
Don't be talking about that.
Oh gosh.
No, that's pretty great. Where and obviously today's a big day. You saw Harvey wearing the jersey.
What time's the game?
Yeah, it's unfortunately I have a big dinner event. It's in the evening. Well, for you, it's even probably late afternoon.
Yeah.
It's probably 7 p.m. Eastern time or something like that. But great game. Hopefully we get a good win out of it.
I think they're playing here in the Bay Area. And
they are. I think it's San Francisco.
God, the tickets are so crazy. We went to the World Cup 4 years ago in Qatar and hit 3 U.S. games, and I don't think we paid more than $200 for a seat.
No.
Or something like that. $4,000 for. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's unfortunate the way that it works here in the United States, but yeah. Anyways, I was, I asked a question earlier, kind of about the future orientation. Talked about, you kind of brought up the downside, right, of what happens with all this data that's out there, and if there's no control over it, and 23andMe as the kind of case example. But on the positive side, where do you see a day like, well, what do you all see like in the future in terms of everyone owning their own record, and what do you think is going to happen to primary care as an example, as we know it today, if we're all empowered with this capability and have our own, access to our data and AI.
Well, have you ever heard of a doctor? I'm going to butcher the name. Sorry, Brigitte Pianowski. You ever heard of her?
Maybe not.
She's written a couple interesting books, and I was lucky enough to meet with her now on a few occasions, and kind of higher profile. She lives up in Bend, Oregon, or somewhere up there. And how cool would it be? Let's just like go with what you said, Ed. I don't care. Data can be out there, right? I don't care. But what if one day you could control what's out there and monetize it yourself and get in on the back, like, maybe I'm a stage 4 pancreatic cancer survivor that had COVID and long COVID, and I have one arm. I mean, you have
totally.
Oh my God, a rich data set.
Yeah.
In the eyes of
the
advertisers or whatever these bad people are, these data brokers. What if you could, hey, do you want to? We've identified this as an absolute gold mine that you can leverage, whether it's with pharma or life sciences and doing post-marketing and phase 4 studies or registry, whatever it is, or straight to an advertiser and giving this data, not giving, but providing this data with an understanding that, hey, you're going to be compensated for it. Your bank account's going to grow because of this.
It's like giving your plasma or your blood, right?
Yeah.
Some people go in and sell it, and they have an asset. They want to do it, and I like that. I like that as a future. Yeah, you just have just like on your driver's license. I don't know about California, but in Texas, I can choose to be an organ donor, and you can opt in. Hey, I want my data shared. I personally do. It's just like people who give their bodies to science, when they die, and it's for research. I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think sharing our data actually just helps everyone. It's like so. I'm excited about what you all are doing and where we're headed, and I agree with the protections. I don't want to be dismissive of all the protections and things like that. But sometimes I think we go so overboard, whether it's governance, like that's a different topic, but governance, within our healthcare systems. Why are we so far behind with technologies? Because of governance. And I think it's the same thing's happening with AI and all these capabilities, and why companies like yours will continue to flourish, and there'll be this aftermarket that's going to happen. Is because governance within our health systems. That's the killer. It's not sharing too much data or having a data leak, for goodness sakes. It's our over reliance on policy and procedure and governance. Anyways, that's my rant for the morning.
You had one earlier too, Ed, and I wrote it down. I knew I had to get back to it. I don't know when you're catching your flight, so I'm just going to do it now.
All right.
So I'm kind of from the school of thought too. Hey, man, just like, I've had Google since I was in first grade. If a tech company or an advertiser wants to run a deep dive on me, there's a million different ways that I am on the internet every day. And I agree. But just for conversation's sake, right? I don't know about you guys, but I lie to my doctor all the time, right? When I go to my primary care physician, how many drinks did you have? Like, oh, man, what's in range, And or for a million different reasons, especially on the lifestyle side. Are you working out? Like, don't look at my Whoop data. But yes, I work out all the time. I love to work. I just little, mini lies like that. I think everyone is guilty of that because you're talking to a human being, right? You're like, okay, man, I don't want you to judge me. I think that part of my fear with this health data is like every morning, Whoop's like, did you have any alcoholic drinks last night? Right? It asks me every morning and it logs it. Every single morning I wake up, it's the first thing that happens. And last night was Farmer's Market in downtown Sonoma. You know what? I did. I drank a bottle of wine. But I'm going to tell you that I had 2 glasses of wine. But the point is I'm lying to the AI. Right. I want to feel better about myself. What I think is the problem is if one day my health insurance company, if Blue Cross or whatever finds out, okay, like they have my medical records, they have all my other information, they have my wearables data, they have my alcohol consumption data, right? Maybe all of a sudden these guys with all their money can run an algorithm and like, Steve's probably pre-diabetic. and
Yeah.
doesn't even know he's pre-diabetic. And maybe they decide not to cover my family and I, or my premium goes up.
Yeah. But why? Yeah. And it's like Avis is going to stop renting to me at some point because they're going to figure out I'm always going 180 miles an hour on the Autobahn.
For sure.
But what's wrong with that?
Well,
Because it's a risk to them.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. It's a hard. I keep going. I kind of stopped you, but I was just thinking the Avis example because that one really happens, right? They do track you now, and you can opt in or opt out. I can't remember. Yeah. If you want to lower your rental costs or something like that, you can opt in, and they watch all the data.
I think Geico does it too. Geico, if you want a cheaper rate, have one of these things in your car, or have this app open on your phone, or whatever it is.
In that case, they're asking for permission. Yeah.
So yeah, it's their risk. I don't know. I'm more of like power of the people, man. Leave me alone. Let me do what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. To your point about people voluntarily offering their medical information to be used for research purposes, or to just for us to make advances in certain clinical issues. But if there is data that's voluntarily inputted that may not be accurate, how does that impact the quality of that research? But I think these are all such interesting questions. And, Ed, you'd asked about what does this mean really for the clinician in the room? And I guess, Stephen, if you don't mind walking us through what exactly happened. So you're about to launch this on the 6th, I believe. Congratulations. That's so exciting. And this is such a wonderful era that we're in, that we get to have all of these access to all of these things. But so say your typical consumer, typical patient, if they have this app, what are the next steps? Can you kind of walk us through what happens and where the information comes from?
Yes, I think it's so July 7th. It's July 7th at midnight Eastern time, and so it'll be for us in Texas and California on the 6th. It's globally, right? We built it in 49 languages and natively. And the question, I think, is what happens next when someone gets in there. People can connect. I think it's up to 65 different wearables in the app, right? Whether you're at a Garmin or a Fitbit or a Whoop or whatever it is, you connect that first.
Okay.
And it finds it. It's like, hey, we found this data. Do you want to connect it? Okay. Then you connect your medical records, right? I have medical records at the University of Utah when I lived out there. I'm a UCSF guy. Have some printouts from a spill in Tanzania, a malaria scare in Laos. You put data together on the phone. Then we now enable people to not only get an analysis and put all those biomarkers and all that data in one kind of longitudinal health record. We have 18, I think, different AIs that folks can use at once. You can have Claude and GPT and Grok if you're going the cloud-based route. If you're on the on-device route, you can have Gemma or Llama or Falcon or Ministral or one of those. Or you can have all of them. You can have one and then the other, to have a second, third, fourth opinion between the AIs, which I think is really cool. Another kind of crazy selling point, if that's what I'm doing right now, is in the most high resource settings, it's $9.99 a year to use all of those models, which is wild because, for Opus 4.6 or whatever the numbers are behind it today, it's probably different than it was yesterday, knowing Anthropic and how fast things are going. We allow you to use these leading models for a fraction of the cost to actually use the pro tier. And we do that by capping the amount of queries you can have in a given year. So maybe from $9.99, you're getting, you can have 16,000 conversations with Grok or 6,000 conversations with Claude, whatever the case might be. And so, and in many places around the world, like Ghana and Cambodia, which have covered us this week, with some editorial press, I think it's $4 a year, right? And So it's power in numbers, right? We're trying to, I mean, I said it earlier, 1 billion people digitize their records on the app in the next couple of years. That's the goal. And I think that, like I said earlier, like to live longer and to feel better and to give people the power to take this first step into, because I'm guilty every day. I asked, I mean, the amount of things I asked Claude last night for this garage door opener down there, my garage door, I'm everything health related. Forever, I've been going to ChatGPT or WebMD or to Google and say, hey, what's going on? What should I do? Right. And just to give people the opportunity to say, hey, this is a safe environment, safer than any environment we can find, for you to not only, ask questions, but to take control and to better understand whether it's in between appointments or maybe you're a biohacker who doesn't have anything going on. Just like empowering people to make more informed decisions of their health.
Yeah, and having access to that information, I think about all of the time and frustration that it would save if a patient could pull in their records from previous physicians that maybe have transferred their care to somebody else, or they just need a summary of, or like a central place where everything's located. I even think of like the mechanics of a clinic, how that would change when you don't have to have people that are dedicated to tracking down that information, which can be a lengthy process and very frustrating for the patient. If they're coming to you to seek care and you are held up because you cannot get the previous workup from the previous hospital where they were. I think this will really change a lot of that and help us a lot to just kind of streamline that process. And what it means for the clinician in the exam room, it's hard to say, but I love the idea of empowering the patient. And I think we as physicians need to just be aware that these things are out there. And I don't know that a lot of physicians are aware that this is something that's happening now. And so I think it's important to kind of get the awareness out.
We have about 3,000 beta testers, and I bet about half of them are physicians, and not just in the US. And it's come up time and time again. Not every one of them at all. I really like your take there, Dr. Mannering. But to piggyback on what you're saying, right? I've had people go, hey man, I don't want that data. I don't want to be held accountable for saying I read this person's data that from a chart that came in 15 years ago from across the country. They don't want to be like, maybe they read it and then the next appointment they completely forgot about it and it's not in their chart. They lose track of it and they misdiagnose somebody or they give the wrong medication. I mean, this is your guys' world. I won't, all the different things that can happen. And I think that keeping this data traceability clean is like really hard, right? Like on our app, it happens all the time where an EHR flags something. I'm like, yeah, that's what was in the note, but it's actually not true, right? Like it's not just our interpretation of the EHR. The EHR data is fragmented and off. And I think that everything kind of has to come together over the next however many years to increase everything, the traceability of this data, the cleanliness of this data, the correctness of this data, right? And I think that, right, 21st Century ONC Cures Act, right, I can pull. This is all a pull from EHRs that these companies are doing. The push back in to these EHRs is currently it's a no-no, right? It's a completely different thing, and you have to go institution by institution, get BAA, third-party risk assessments committee approvals, and actually build something unique for that healthcare institution or that AMC or that CMC, that urgent care facility. And so I think it's early days, which I think is very cool. And I would agree. I think a lot of physicians don't know what's going on, and they're busy, curing cancer or whatever these doctors are doing around the world. They have bigger problems. They're seeing patients, and so that's why I think we've really focused on more on a global effort here too. The coolest thing that's happened, I just had to say, a month ago, I was on the phone with a dude in Sierra Leone, and we're on the phone, and he had worked for the Clinton Health Access Initiative and stuff like that, and pretty well versed. And he blew my mind. I was like, oh, talk about medical records, and he went and found his medical record. Right, it's a journal with lab reports of the last 15 years stapled in there, and things taped in there. And he was like, look, like, this is when I go in the doctor, it's like, okay, well, this is where we are, and this is where we were 2 years ago. And I asked him, I was like, please take the time. And he went through and from the beginning, and my UCSF data goes back 18 years or something like that in my app, right? That's as far I could see. You can see stuff from like 2007 or something in there from visits and being able to analyze what happened on that particular day with that doctor at UCSF. He was able to, in 20 minutes, taking some pictures of this stuff and kind of get the same level of EHR, if you will, of a patient level of an EHR without, anyone having to spend. What do you think UCSF, gave Epic for that build? $1.3 billion. Something like that, giving someone in, Sierra Leone the same level of access as someone who's at a top AMC in the world. I think is like, wow, what a not for $4 a year, this guy can have my chart on his phone, essentially. An even better version in theory from a patient's perspective, without the whole feedback and medication orders and scheduling that my chart's able to do. And so that's, I think, we're focused on these people in lower resource settings, because I really feel this consumer health wave is really, wow, what an awesome thing this can do for people around the world who don't have the level of electronic health records that we have in the States.
Is there a future potential of this information that's, all this health information that's there, for it to be kind of summarized? Like, does that happen through the system? Like, because I'm just thinking as a clinician, one, I have the choice to be overwhelmed with all this information and say, I didn't sign up for this. I don't want this. I don't like this. Or, I can go with it and embrace it and learn to adapt and optimize it for the benefit of the patient. So, I'm thinking, well, that would be helpful if I had all of these records to go through, but there was an accurate, reliable summarization of the patient's health history that I could then just refer to.
I mean, we worked on this at Sava like a year ago, and right. Okay. I can give you, that's a problem. I can push back a raw copy of the source, right? Okay. Now what that looks like in EHR language, where it's being ported, oh my gosh, it's crazy. What you need is ideally one day, and it will happen, to answer your question, I think it's going to happen. Yeah. But we stopped. We were going to make an additional caregiver, right? So like, okay, we can go around the whole thing. I can list you as an additional caregiver in the app, and I can give you access to see what's going on with me as my physician, or I can have my mom do it, or I can connect really my parents to mine, so I could see, okay, what happened at that appointment this week? What's actually going on here? Especially for people that live on the other side of the country and stuff like that. But when you do it that way, it's like what we saw when we were first betaing it. It's like, oh my God, it's just a certified copy of what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing it scrolls and scrolls and scrolls. I think one day what you want as a physician is okay, you're walking through a corridor and you have 30 seconds and you're going to go see this patient again. And okay, not sleeping, just like iconography, not sleeping, not taking their drugs, not working out.
Where they have to make a clinical decision so quickly. It's like, if they could have a summary of that patient's health in the ER in real time, I mean, that would be amazing.
I mean, so I could give you in Sava, if you check it out, like we give an analysis of their whole entire health, and then we could go condition by condition and we track all the biomarkers that are related to that specific condition. If a guy who has heart disease has a completely different feel to it than a person who's a diabetic, whatever the case might be, and like the things that are tracked. We can go visit by visit and have that analyzed and go, okay, this is what happened on this day in 2008 or whatever last year. These are the lab results, and we show the raw data that's coming out of Epic, and it's usually like you get like kind of dizzy reading it, and then you get to have AI analyze what's going on there too. So kind of allowing people or you as a doctor to see, okay, here's the raw data. Here's our analysis of the data to kind of put it in like more, like a language like a 7th grader could read is the goal, making it super human readable. And so, I mean, I think all this stuff is on the horizon. I think that some dominoes need to fall in the right direction. And in terms of with the regulators and with what's happening with these AI models. And I think I think we're, in the second hour of this thing, and a long way to go until it gets that good. But to have that data presented to you, I think is a 21st Century ONC Cures Act thing that needs to be kind of hashed out in terms of the pull versus the push, as well as, are you trusting this AI analysis? Are you trusting the EHR data or the OCR data, whatever? Are you trusting that the data is actually real? Right. I mean, I think before we start escalating that that's why I think Doctronic is kind of cool, right? Okay, here's this analysis, telehealth, talk to somebody right now who's in the States about this for $39 for an hour or whatever it is. And so you can kind of work it out together, as opposed to, your primary care, your PCP. It's kind of a gray area, and from my perspective.
I want to jump on Alan's comments, if they could put Alan's comments back up. So the way I see it as follows: we have two sides always, right? On one side, I'm going to play devil's advocate. Yes, doctors are missing information because they don't see it. But then on the other AI side is hallucinating, or how do I know that summary is correct or not correct? And if I'm putting all that power into that summary and it misses something, ultimately, who has the license? Does ChatGPT have the license? Does the hospital have the license? Or does the doctor have that license, who ultimately makes that call? And so with that said, how do we do this? Because I'm going to age myself, when Google came out and I was in medical school, it was the Google, Dr. Google, and now it's Dr. ChatGPT. And so which one is correct and how do I use it? Case in point, I made my own digital twin, and literally, I mentioned in the show last week, I got all this information coming in, and literally my AI sent me a text saying, hey, dude, do not get on this flight. Do not go to Portugal. You're not rested. You didn't sleep. Your HRV is running ragged. You're hurting yourself. You're aging yourself. See if you could take 24 hours off just to kind of reset to go. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool that it did that, because it pulled from all that data. But more importantly, as a physician, I'm able to look at it and be like, okay, is this BS? Is this correct? Is this wrong? But if I was a regular consumer that had no medical background that saw it, be like, oh my God, this is going to give me cancer. I'm about to die. And then I would have this horrible, maybe anxiety, and maybe I couldn't sleep, or maybe I'd be watching my steps every night, or maybe I couldn't sleep because I'm like, oh my God, I didn't get enough deep sleep last night and I'm going to suck today. And so there is that pendulum. Which patient are we talking about? And so on one side, we got the doctors that don't know how to use this. And on the other side, we have the patients that also don't know how to use this. How do we get that nice middle? And I think that's what Alan is getting at. Thoughts? What do you guys think?
The way you get there is, I just laugh because we all have these different angles and personalities, which is the best. That's the best part of Signal and Symptoms. We're very diverse in our opinions, and I think it's good because I think it's representative of the greater population. But man, we're on the frontiers. Like I just think back to early, I wasn't there obviously, but early days of our country, since we're coming up on our 250th birth. And, everyone was kind of living up in the East Coast. And then we opened up the frontiers, like, hey, let's go out there and explore. And I think if you don't go out there and explore, you will never discover Sonoma. So you got to let go and go out there and make stuff happen. Yes. Are people going to run into some things they never experienced before and have tragic consequences? Yeah. It's true. But we have those tragic consequences today. I always try to remind people that. Everyone thinks like today's perfect state. No, there's 100,000 medical errors, induced deaths every year. We won't go into our own personal stories. I think we all have the same thing. We have traditional best practice medicine. So it's like we got to go out there and push the envelope, push on the frontiers, and go make things happen. Because again, I told you, governance is the biggest killer. I wish we could measure it. Like we talk about, is sepsis the biggest killer? What's the biggest killer? Nope, it's governance is the biggest killer today. So anyways, we got to push the frontiers. I'm all about that.
Agree.
Well, I think that Alan, I agree. I'm a frontiersman myself. You know, I find myself in Donner Party situations. You know, often it's like I tell my buddy the other day, it's as a lifelong entrepreneur, if you will. It's gosh, man, it's always the first guy through the wall always gets bloodied. Like I love those euphemisms and those sayings. But with that Alan said, I think it's really interesting. I think I kind of was calling out a little bit, but I would agree, right? I mean, I don't know what you guys will know better than I will, for sure, by 100%. But you know, the accountability of saying I read something and I registered it in my mind and I took that data from 20 years ago, 50 years ago, it's going to be at some point, right? Looking at some old medical history coming out of an EHR that doesn't exist anymore, whatever the case might be, and having a doctor make a decision based off that data, isn't it risky from the perspective of, you know, losing, you know, like malpractice? I mean, for someone who has no idea, but isn't that when that kind of comes into play? I don't want to make a conclusion based off this because I don't want to get sued later.
Well, it's all, you know, different pieces of the puzzle. And I think that's where like the integrity of the clinician is so important, that we keep that role, right? Because that's where the medical decision making happens. The data is one thing, you know, and like whether you get the information about the health history by calling an office, getting them to fax you the records versus in a form of the patient bringing it to you, regardless of where you get that information is just part of what you use to make your decisions. So then I think that's where, you know, the clinical aspect of trying to decide how much value to put into that information versus what you see. I mean, what you see in front of you, the patient themselves, that's the most important thing. Everything else helps fill the gaps and create the picture for you, but you still have to have that, you know, touch point with the patient. You have to, you know, be able to just integrate all of that information and use all the data points to make your decision rather than just, you know, relying heavily on one thing over the other.
Makes sense. Where do we go from here?
To me, my spin is it's about changing the culture. How do we change the cultures? We educate. How do we educate? We do podcasts like this. We do voice leadership like we're doing right now and explaining. And then we make sure to what I like to call the increase in the healthcare IQ, and that maybe I won't be smoking anymore. Or maybe I'm saying that I don't smoke, but another one like now is sleep, right? Am I sleeping more? And now it's a thing, whereas before it'd be like, it was kind of like a thing like, yeah, I only get 3 hours of sleep. Yeah, look at me, I'm a rock star. It's like, actually, no, that's not good for you. And then fast forward, we don't know what we don't know, right? So maybe we will live to 200 years of age because now we're doing all of these things and the AI is telling us that we need to do X, Y, Z, and this is how we're going to maximize our genetics. And then on the genetic side, if you have genetics disease X, we can use CRISPR to change your genetics. So that way you don't have syndrome X that's going to kill you at 20, you know, and now it's going to modify. So it's kind of interesting where we're headed.
Well, and I think the theme, you know, seems to be knowledge is power. And change is always happening. And you have a choice to either be afraid of it, be afraid of the change, be afraid of the information, or you have the choice to really get to know what it means and learn to use it for the benefit of yourself and your patients. And I think that's what these conversations help us to achieve. So I really appreciate that.
Great. And I'm biased. I just posted this thing, Mercy on Prime. If you guys haven't watched it, it's pretty damn cool. Have you guys watched it by chance, Mercy?
I watched it.
Yes.
It's good. Yeah, it's intense.
Okay.
What are we talking
Yes.
about?
A movie, Amazon Prime. It's called Mercy, and it's basically an AI judge. I just posted it like 10 minutes ago. It's auto post from, and then I just check it out. But the skin is this AI being a judge, and I'll just leave it at that. Just watch it, and don't look at the trailer because the trailer doesn't do it justice. Like, watch the movie, because everyone I've told, they're like, dude, that was so good. So watch it. And then me leveraging AI, I changed the character's face and I put my face in the character. So if you look at my LinkedIn right now, you'll see my face, and it looks like that's the movie poster with my face.
I saw that, and for a second I was like, wait, was he in a movie? And then I realized what it was. And it was good though. Like, the movie surprised me in some ways. So I do recommend that as well.
Mm-hmm. It's got a lot of ethical stuff in there, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm surprised, and there probably is a movie already, but on the topics we're talking about right now, you could see a great movie being made, and I can already see a few different storylines. It's a hard one, right? We were talking about that from the very beginning, and the whole time, and the whole chat is full of this. It's like, what are the boundaries? What are safe boundaries for us to go into the frontier, and at the same time not damage anyone? So yeah, it's a tough thing, but what a great time to be alive. There hasn't been a time like this, right, in our generation, where there's been such acceleration in terms of technology and capability in the medical profession, and just all coming together. And it's pretty exciting frontiers time. And I'm glad there's people like you, Stephen, out there doing stuff, making things happen, trying, experimenting, pushing the envelope, because that's what makes, the whole world. There's other people in the world that do it as well, but definitely, it's kind of like inbred in us, I think, in America, kind of that frontiers kind of thinking, but also obviously elsewhere in the world. But what a great time.
Great. Well, we got last few minutes. Anyone else have anything interesting they want to add? Any new projects coming up, and any new features that you want to share with us that we should keep an eye out for with your product coming out next week?
Yeah, Stephen, tell us, how do we get, because I was already looking. I was trying to download, but it's nothing out there.
Yeah, it's not on the app stores today. I believe I can sign you guys up personally via the test flight if you guys want to check out the test flight. But July 7th, I'm going to be at a wedding that day in New York City. And well, what a day for launch day after 24 months of building this thing up. I'm like, looking at my co-founder like, dude, I'm going to be at a wedding that whole day. But yeah, July 7th, it's coming. It's a free app for a lot of the app, right? You can ingest data into the app and use on-device AI for free. And if you want to use one of the big models, it's $10 a year.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. No matter where you are in this continuum, like kind of a safety person or safety third, as I like to say, quote from a friend, safety comes third. If you live in a safety first world, man, that's a boring world. But anyways,
1 and 2, if safety's third, that's what I want to know.
Adventure, discovery.
Perfect.
But where I was going with this is that everyone, so no matter where you are on the continuum, whether it's, Sava or something else, try it.
Yeah.
Go out there and push. Try it yourself. Safe. You can control things like we talked about, but you got to try these different things to open up your mind a little bit, or change your mind. For me, maybe it's like, oh man, we need to pull back. But I think that's really important, is that everyone that has the ability to make decisions, they definitely need to get educated, try different things, always be learning, always be curious. And I think that's what's really going to help us push into the frontier as safely as we can.
No,
Awesome.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on Signal and Symptoms. This is amazing. I thank the three of you for joining. Ed, are you a doctor?
No, but I'm married to a clinician.
Got it. That's not enough.
No.
Got it. I was wondering. I dig your style, and Also, Dr. Mannering, knowledge is power, and I couldn't agree more. And so, if you all are ever in Sonoma, please hit me up. I'm never leaving this place. And
Yeah.
so,
Whatever that was. Is it Wednesdays? It's a farmer market, and you can drink a bottle of wine.
Tuesday farmers market. There's no open bottle policy in the town of Sonoma. It's like Vegas.
Wow.
It's like
Nice.
it's unique, and it's because the country of California, the country was established in Sonoma, right, with the Bear Flag, and there's a bunch of cool things in my little town of about 10,000 people that make it unique. But yeah, I married a third generation winemaker, and I'm very good at pretending that her family's wineries are mine. I have.
Wow.
So if you're ever out here, I'll host, and I do it all the time.
All right.
We're gonna take you up on it. Road trip.
Please, my whole career has been predicated on inviting people out here. So I can't sit through a call without inviting someone to come, check out my hometown.
Love it. That's where I
leave.
I actually wrote my first book in Sonoma.
Really?
Yeah. So there was a editor of wine. What's the big wine magazine? Like, I forget the name of it, but there's a big
Wine Spectator.
Yeah, he was the editor, a longtime editor. Unfortunately, he passed away. He helped me write. He was like an expert on Pinot Noir, and he helped me. He was kind of like my senior editor on my first book, and so I went to Sonoma for a few days, drank a lot of wine. That's why the book is kind of iffy. Anyways, no, this is a great discussion. It pushes me as well, hearing other people's opinions. Alan was great. So yeah, thanks so much. And I will see you in Sonoma. I guarantee it.
I'll be here. Go to the plaza and scream my name. I'll hear you. I'll come hang out.
All right.
Love it. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. We'll keep in touch.
Nice meeting you, Dr. Mannering. Nice meeting you, Ed.
Same
Dr.
here.
Castro, always a pleasure.
All right, buddy. Well, we're gonna end the thing and then just stay for a sec. She's